Hello and welcome. My name is Paige, and this is the first episode of my brand new podcast, 24 Cups and Counting. In today's episode, I am going to be giving a little introduction on myself and answer any questions and any topics that need to be discussed going into the 24-25 season. So let's get started with how I got into hockey. When I was younger, I always used to watch the Leafs games with my dad, but that had dissipated during my childhood. So about 2 years ago, I had decided to rekindle my love for the game because when I was younger, I did really like watching the games, but I don't know, I just stopped watching it for some reason. And then when I was younger, I always watched the Leafs, as I said, but I didn't really know much about the team because I was so young. So I had decided that I would just be a fan of the Habs, which was a team that I didn't know much about. So it was going in with like an open mind and stuff. One of the reasons why I chose this team was because of the history. I love the rich history that they have as a team, and that is super fun to like watch what they have gone through over like the years they've been a team, as well as the fans are unmatched to any other sports team I have seen. The passion is unbelievable. The desire is unbelievable, and the patience that all the fans are going through this rough stage right now is just unbelievable. There's no night that I've seen the Bell Center not packed for a game. It's always packed, even when they're losing really bad. I just love that about them. I know that's not the case for lots of other teams, but because the Habs, I think, have a super rich history, they're just super passionate about this team. Another reason why I chose this team is because when I was younger, I remember my mom used to cheer for the Habs when they would play the Leafs. So I decided to why don't I just take a look at what this team has to offer? And at the time, I didn't realize they were a rival team. They are, which makes sense when I was younger, which I didn't know at the time. So that's how I got into hockey, and we're here. Now time for the burning question that I'm sure everyone is asking. Who is my favorite player on the Habs, and why did I choose that player? Without a doubt, my favorite player is a Jack. I'm sure everyone knows this at this point. One of the reasons is because of his story on making the NHL and how inspiring it was. He never gave up, and as someone who often does, I have been inspired to start focusing on that sort of mindset and be like, oh, take the roadblocks as like an opportunity, which he had done with Laval when he got sent there. And that's just super inspiring as a young person going through like lots of ups and downs, especially in college, which has lots of ups and downs. He was under so much pressure during 2020, during COVID, doing everything. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope it does. And especially when you're under that much pressure, family from like scouts, that's really inspirational that even with all that pressure, still able to find a way around. And then when I started watching him play and like being a fan was during his rookie year, which was also during like the year that I first got back into hockey. So that was 2 years ago now, which is crazy. Gone by so fast. He's just a very inspirational person, I think. And if you haven't seen the video by Sportsnet on his journey to the NHL, I would definitely recommend watching it. It is the most heartwarming video I have seen. Gives you all the feels in the right ways. I was going to recap the preseason a little bit. I know I didn't say that in the introduction, but I figured we should going into the season, and then we'll answer the questions. So I thought the first two games went really well. It was very early in the preseason. I feel like both teams' rosters were a bit all over the place as like they were like trying to get like the prospects into games and stuff. But I really enjoyed them thoroughly. Honestly, I can't remember that much about those two games, the ones against New Jersey and Philadelphia, that much. just because of what had happened the last 4 games, which actually just took over my brain. So let's start with the rivals. I don't really know much. I don't think anything much happened during the rival game on September 26th. I was also there, so I don't know what the camera was showing. I'm not going to comment on any of that because it looked a different angle from where I was sitting. Obviously, I can't, see the up close and personal stuff. I mean, they show it on the Jumbotron, but they don't discuss it. That's it, they would on TV. But it was physical. It's Habs versus Toronto. What more can you expect? But it wasn't anything compared to this game on Saturday. Now that game was absolutely wild. There was fights and stuff, but nothing like that. So let's get into that game. On Saturday, I was actually at my dad's house. Obviously, he's a huge Leafs fan. I'm a huge Habs fan. The rival, so fun. We all thought the Habs would win that game. And I'm speaking from a standpoint of the whole fan base, I think, because it looked like on paper that would be the case. However, we all know what happened during the first opening 5 minutes. Obviously, ended up being a turning point in the game, I want to say, except for the fighting and stuff. Although it was a crazy game, I don't remember the Habs doing that much necessarily. I feel like their puck movement was all over the place. I should have watched highlights and stuff before actually recording this. I didn't. I'll do that for next episode though. But I feel like we were just losing the puck a lot. You know what I mean? And obviously the fighting and stuff and the penalties didn't help with that. The rest of our game was kind of sacrificed. It was a preseason game, but it was a wild one, to say the least. The news that we got, though, was surprising. David Reinbacher, I think 4 to 5 months, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm sure when he comes back, he's going to be an absolute beast. I'm counting on it. And then Patrick Laine, we all expected it to be season over and only out 2 to 3 months, which would put us in, I want to say February, something like that, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. And then the Ottawa game. We all know the rivals between Ottawa and that game was actually crazy. I thought we did a lot of good things, though, during that game. Obviously we lost, but I thought there was a lot of good things to take out of the game, especially for a lot of players, especially because we didn't have, our top line out. I just remember Armia being a better player. The last preseason game? Yeah, the last one, which was on Saturday. Obviously, we lost, but we still did a lot of good things, I felt. There wasn't as much, I want to say, tension between the two teams. Obviously there was, but I feel like after period 1, that's just sort of dissipated, and everyone just played the game. That could have been from the coaches talking to them in the locker room. But after that, I felt like after the first period, at least the first 10 minutes, I think, it went really well. On to the questions. The first question is from someone you all probably know by now, my best friend Laura. Now, she would like me to explain how we met, and as well as all the hockey things we have done together. So we actually met on Twitter through a hockey group chat, which is kind of crazy because who would have thought? I remember asking her for something about Florian. I can't remember what, but whatever it was, she sent it to me, and we just started talking, and we became best friends from that. Also, both of our favorite players are brothers, so we kind of bonded from that, which is kind of cool, kind of crazy that both of them happen to be brothers. Also, last year in December is when we first met, and it was at my first Habs game, which was honestly one of the best games I have been to for multiple reasons. I met my best friend, and then we saw Slash's first fight, which we couldn't believe it was him, which is actually crazy. And it went to a shootout, and Slash won in a shootout. So, that was like the ultimate like first Habs game for me, and it was just so much fun. We've also gone to so many OHL games. If you don't know what that is, it's the Ontario Hockey League, and we follow the London Knights, but we also follow the Brantford Bulldogs. We also went to 2 meet and greets for the 2 teams, which was so much fun. If you ever have an opportunity to go to a meet and greet for any level of league, definitely do it. You will not regret it. So to kick off this season, we traveled all the way to Buffalo to go to the Prospect Games. I think that was called. Yeah, the Prospect Game. We went to all 3 on the Saturday. We mostly went to see the Knights that were playing because some of them, that was our last chance before they went to the AHL or ECHL, and we may not be able to see them again as well. We went to 2 preseason games in Toronto. The first one was against the Sens, and then the second one was against our beloved Habs. And I'm sure everyone knows about that game. I'm sure everyone's seen the video. If you haven't, it's on my main account. What a wild time that was. That's also why I couldn't remember what had happened during that game. We are going to the Marlies game on Sunday. We had also gone to the Laval versus Belleville game in April. I think it was April 19th. And that was her first Laval game. I had already gone to a Laval game back in January. The second question is from Maddie at Neeks Caulfield 98. And she asks if you could have any player in the NHL currently not on the Habs, who would it be? So the short answer is Tyler Toffoli. I love Tyler Toffoli. I know he was already on the Habs, but if he came back to the team, lots of good things would happen. Plus, I was not a fan of the Habs or hockey at the time he was on the Habs. So, and I've talked to people, and they're like, oh, he was great for the team. And I always watch highlights, and I always see those highlights and know how hard it was for when he got traded. What were my thoughts on the Habs last season? Going into the season, I had higher expectations, but not super unrealistic. The main one was being finished higher in the standings, which we all know didn't happen due to injuries and whatnot. Although last season had its ups and downs, there were definitely good things to come out of the season. Like when later on in the season, when some of the prospects were being brought up to play in the Habs, I thought that was great. We could see like what we could expect for this upcoming season, which was really exciting and super promising. And on to the next part, which leads into how I think they're gonna do this year. I do have my expectations. I also want to be realistic. So my expectations are not that high because I also want to still be realistic and be like, okay, that didn't happen, but maybe next year. You know what I mean? I definitely think it will be more competitive than last year and finish higher in the standings. That's with hoping everyone stays healthy for the season. However, I do not think we're making the playoffs this year. But I would not count them out because they could surprise us in some sort of way and happen to make the playoffs. But I don't want to set that in my mind and have the hopes that that's going to be realistic when it probably will not be. I do love the addition of Patrick Laine, though. I think Kent Hughes cooked with that. When he does come back, I do think he's going to be absolutely fantastic for the team and will be doing lots of good things. The third question is, who is my favorite baseball player and hockey player that's not Robert Jacki and Ernie Clement? If you didn't know, I also love baseball. I'm not sure if I'm going to talk much about that on this podcast because this podcast is going to be strictly about the Habs mostly. So for my favorite baseball player, that's not Ernie Clement. I do love David Schneider and Spencer Horwitz. I honestly don't know why. I just love the roomies. They're just so fun to watch, and they're so young and they have so much promising talent ahead of them. And as for my favorite hockey player, that's not Robert Jacki. This may not be surprising that much, but it's Lennon Sim. He is my favorite hockey player that's not Robert Jacki. I don't know why. So that is all the questions, and it concludes episode 1 of 24 Cups and Counting. Thank you for taking your time to listen to this podcast, and have a great rest of your day.